will never do. When you grow old, you don't last long. You're here today, tomorrow you're gone. I loved a man for many years gone by. I never thought his love for me would die. But he made some changes from old to new. And now I'm gonna make some changes too. There'll be a change in the weather, a change in the sea. From now on, there's gonna be a change in me. My walk will be different, my talk and my name. Ain't nothing ever about me gonna be the same. I'm gonna change my life.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Welcome to Northwest Arkansas Backstage Pass. I'm your host, Riki Stamps, and we are so fortunate in Northwest Arkansas to have numerous performing venues with our own local talent, and these venues host national and international talent. Many of you have visited a lot of the venues in Northwest Arkansas. Our very first guest for Northwest Arkansas Backstage Pass today is the daughter of resident Nell Taylor. Many of you know Nell, and she is the founder of Potluck Arts. She is a consultant, producer, and presenter of imaginative and extraordinary art events designed to integrate audiences. Her broad interest in the arts is reflected in her evolving role in the arts community, which we will discuss today. And I would like to warmly welcome Jenni Taylor Swain. Jenni, thank you so much for being here today. We've known each other for a few years, and of course, the first time I saw your name and saw your lovely face was when the Walton Arts Center, our own Walton Arts Center in Fayetteville, began to grow and be created. So you dedicated 26 years to the Walton Arts Center, and what I'd like to do before we get into Potluck Arts is to have you give us an idea of what your vision was as the lead team for the Walton Arts Center all those many years ago. And now that you're somewhat separated from the Walton Arts Center, how do you perceive the beautiful venue now?
First, thank you, Riki, for inviting me to be a part, and I want to commend you for all of the programming that you do. You are so creative and bring a fun touch to Butterfield, and I think that what you and your staff and team are doing right now during this coronavirus 19 is really exciting, and I think you'll be learning a lot of new things that you can do.
Absolutely, thank you.
The Walton Arts Center was my first job right out of graduate school at the University of Arkansas, and I just sort of haphazardly fell into it and was hired by the first president, Bill Mitchell, who many of you I know because Bill was real instrumental and was involved with the Presbyterian Church. And I know many of you were also involved in raising funds and making the Walton Arts Center happen. That without many of the residents here, the Walton Arts Center wouldn't be here.
I actually remember scheduling Bill to come and give an opening presentation showing us blueprints of the lovely Walton Arts Center in our little convocation room. We didn't have our hall at the time. And that's how he was, educating the community on what Fayetteville was about to experience.
Well, when I went and talked to him about what kind of jobs were going to be open, he threw two jobs at me. He threw the director of marketing and the director of education. And I remember looking at both jobs descriptions and going, I could do either one of those, so whichever one he hires first, that's the one I'm going to go for, because this is where I want to work. And he decided to hire the education program. So I got my start in the arts programmatically versus more through the communication of the Arts Center.
Okay.
And we were part of that founding team that went around and raised funds, but we also began to put together the program portfolio of what would happen. And I was charged with education, and some of the first programming, it was real simply put to me by Mitch, is how I called Bill Mitchell, he said, I just want to see yellow school buses around the Walton Arts Center, so you figure out how to do that. And so that's what I did, and it was so much fun. We also were able to get involved with a new national program that the Kennedy Center was starting. And that really propelled us forward and gave us some national presence and some national credibility that what the Walton Arts Center was going to be bigger than what people could imagine.
Right.
And so I just had the fortunate opportunity to continue to grow and advance in my career from education programming, teacher programming, to full programming over the 26 years. So I was a part of the executive team, but I would bring, because we worked very collaboratively, and I would bring ideas to the table, and we would try to figure out if they worked. And some of the things that I'm most proud of course, are the All Institute, where we integrate, which still exists, and that's integrating the arts in the curriculum and bringing arts education to all the schools of Northwest Arkansas.
Which is such a positive shot in the arm for our educational system in Fayetteville and all surrounding schools.
Yes, I've enjoyed working with the principals, enjoyed all the education cooperative. I just didn't realize the extent. It was a good way for me to learn the community, because there are 18 school districts in our service area. And the All Institute which means Arts with Education, was the first regional project. And for those of you that lived in Northwest Arkansas in the 90s, early 90s, the Walton Arts Center was one of the first regional projects where we were asking people to think of ourselves as a community outside of the city in which we lived.
Well, I just know that Walton Arts Center has made a positive, it just made a whole positive atmosphere for the children and the adults of Northwest Arkansas. And the first Broadway presentation I went to, I just felt like I was in California. It was so awesome to have that. And you, along with Bill and the other staff at the time, had such amazing vision for the Walton Arts Center, and we're all reaping the benefits and joys of programming right now. Unfortunately, with COVID, there's several shows that have been canceled, and that's to be understood. But hopefully, once this is passed,
well, and you'll see new types of programming formats coming out, just like what you see happening here at Butterfield. And the arts being such a creative community, and where artists, one of the things that was so fun, what is fun about the work I do is working with artists, because artists are those people in our communities that are looking ahead and are pushing all of us ahead. So the artists are going to be the ones that are going to bring some solutions and some new ideas to the table. We're already seeing that right now with the way artists are working and responding to this, but we're gonna see so much more over the next 12 months.
Well, and that brings me now to the topic of Potluck Arts, which is Jenni's avenue to work with several venues here and abroad. And so why don't you go ahead and tell our audience about Potluck Arts and how you became involved?
Well, having a long career at the Walton Arts Center, I was wanting to, a balance between working less, doing something new, being on my own. I felt like it was I was looking for ways to, what could I do? What are some next steps I could do in my career? And one of the things that I had been discovering through my job there was I had been introduced to contemporary circus. And we were presenting contemporary circus in some really fun ways. We were putting it on our Broadway series. We were doing residency activities with young people. We were providing family shows. And one of the things I began to notice was the diversity of the audience that contemporary circus brought out. And that I was interested in, this idea of a integrated audience. And I wanted to figure out how I could take the art form that is growing and play around with it.
And contemporary circus is a growing art form. But again, it's like some of the folks in the audience, including myself, we grew up going to the Barnum and Bailey circus. And so you're thinking elephants and tigers and beautiful women twirling around on ropes, high ropes and things like that. Where has that changed? What do audiences experience at a contemporary circus performance?
Well, like you said, circus has been a really important part of our cultural growth in America.
Absolutely.
With the expansion and moving westward at the turn of the century. Circus began to kind of fall away with the birth of film and continue to exist like Barnum and Bailey in the traditional model up until around in the 80s. And we started to see the art form, a couple of things happened in the 80s. Was that one, we saw artists letting go of animals and not using animals, but more significantly, you began to, circus had been an art form that was passed down through families, or maybe you got to be invited and be an apprentice to study under somebody. But there was never a formula, a formalized manner that you could become a circus artist. Like you could become an actor or a musician.
Or dancer.
There was not a curriculum. And so what you saw happening in places around the world was that circus kind of turned upside down, and all of a sudden there began to be places where people could learn the craft and then the art of it. So it was not secretive anymore. It was, I want to learn. And you had these birth of all of these schools. In France, for example, where the contemporary circus movement is the most robust, there are over 400 schools that train. Put that in context. In the United States, we have some hotbeds of education places, but the way our arts curriculum is, the way our school, and the way arts are funded, it hasn't led itself to the prolific growth. And so I wanted Potluck Arts to be a place that could help bridge that, and because I had networks and connections with this art form, and I wanted to find an audience for it, and I wanted to test a couple of hypotheses out on the value that I feel contemporary circus has. And so that's what I've done. And so the other thing about contemporary circus that's important and that I think would be helpful for the residents to know is it also tends to have a story and a narrative. And so you have a dramaturg that works in contemporary circus. Whereas, as you mentioned, beautiful twirling girls, a Ringling and Barnum would have been a series of acts that would showcase the trick, the extraordinary trick, and you would kind of go trick to trick to trick. In a contemporary circus show, the skills, the tricks, are kind of used to move a story along. Exactly in the same way a Broadway musical uses song to move a story. So when somebody has to belt out a feeling for how they're feeling at that time, in that show, the same way would be done in a circus. If you want to experience and showcase sadness, you might then add the choreography of a certain circus language or a certain discipline to exert that feeling.
I see. Is there a narrator during these circuses? Just music and performance?
A lot of contemporary circus is nonverbal, and so it moves very similar to the way dance does. Some shows in circus even feel like a dance program, but some of them have stories, some of them weave narrative. You have to remember, circus is a hybrid art form. That means it's made up of music, movement, visual arts, multimedia, and that's another reason I was excited about it. It was sort of like all this jumbling up of coming together of all of the art forms. So I didn't have to pick one or the other that I liked more. Circus had it all, and it feels something different, but people don't know what it is.
Well, to help the audience understand, you have brought us a couple of clips. So maybe if we watch these, it will give us a better perspective on what happens at one of these performances. And I believe you mentioned in one of them, you actually can see the audience.
Yes, I'm going to show you two videos. The first one is by a renowned physical movement artist who trained under Philippe Petit, who a lot of people know as the high wire walker between the World Trade Towers.
Yes.
And he also studied dance at Juilliard, and he is the son of one of the most noted clowns named Dimitri the Clown from Switzerland.
Oh my goodness.
And David, he has a one-man show that we brought into Northwest Arkansas, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring this show in is it has a lot of the traditional language. There's a tent, there's a ring, and then there are acts that are like him, that have that feeling of a traditional.
Okay.
But he's considered a leader of the contemporary world, and he's taken a beautiful story. And I want to introduce you to David because he's very Charlie Chaplin-like, and I think you'll really enjoy his movements. So let's see. And this piece ran for 2 weeks at Luther George Park in Springdale, and our goal was to create an integrated audience.
Which venue?
We have our own venue. It's a tent. It was in the park.
In the park.
We put the tent up. We had community people raise the tent and work with David, and let's just look at the video.
Very
I think
charming.
you'll see it.
Very charming. Okay, we'll see the clip.
Welcome to Circus Sights. That last scene, what you're seeing is he actually walks on a tight wire rope outside of the top of the tent and goes up 70 feet. And then he gets in, and the audience follows him outside the tent, and then you follow him as he walks up the high wire.
Oh my goodness, that was very, very entertaining, and I don't remember this particular performance, and I wish I'd known about it. Do you plan to do this in the near future once we're back to normal?
I think you're going to begin to see elements of contemporary circus in various presenting formats, from the Walton Arts Center to the Momentary to the Crystal Bridges, and I think you'll begin to see some of that because the work is, again, it brings people together, and it's
Were these
beautiful art.
performers local, or had they?
No, David Dimitri is from Switzerland,
From
and he was doing a
Switzerland.
North American tour.
Okay.
He came to Northwest Arkansas right after he had been in Montreal, which is sort of the capital of circus in North America. So we were really excited to be able to bring him to Northwest Arkansas. The next video I'd like to show is an acrobatic based. A lot of contemporary circus takes one of the disciplines, like acrobatic, juggling, clowning, and then takes it into a full level of a show. So it's not that diversity that you might get at a more traditional show. And so this is a group of kids that went to school together in Adelaide, Australia. And I discovered this company on a festival. And this is a trick to my programming I'll share with you, is if I saw any show that grabbed my heart and made me feel young and excited and just felt really good, whether that emotion was sad, happy, or excited, that was a good indicator that it was a good, strong show. And I wanted to bring it back.
Absolutely.
And introduce, and this is a show that I had that experience with, and I just knew I wanted young people to see it, I wanted families to see it, I wanted, it's a good multi-generational show.
It made an impression on you for sure.
Did.
All right, well, let's watch this next clip. It's Gravity and Other Myths. Absolutely amazing. Thank you.
You know, when I see that again, it reminds me of all the things I love about contemporary circus. That piece has audience interaction. You saw that. You get to throw balls at the guys and try to knock them over. It's gender equality. Mm-hmm. There's women and men, but they're working together as a team to make things happen. And I love that. And then the other thing I love about it is they integrate live music, and both some of live music as well as some recorded, and you get to see that.
Lots of media you're talking about. So there's actually a little band of sorts?
Yeah,
playing?
You saw the guy that was doing the body
Yes.
movement. He's a percussionist, and he has a set of instruments, and he's doing and playing with music.
They're having so much fun.
And then the audience is having fun, and both of those shows, the audience is very close and seeing the physicality of the work, and you feel like you're connecting and having a relationship with the artist. And I think that's a very valuable experience.
It is, especially for young people. I think that would be very valuable. But if you're
and for all of us who want to feel young.
And for all of us that want to feel young, we can be right there on the front row experiencing and throwing balls if we wanted to. I love it. Well, Jenni, these are wonderful clips. Thank you for sharing these. And now I feel like I do understand contemporary circus a little better. And I look forward to some performance in the near future in Northwest Arkansas. And I hope that you will keep us in the loop on when these things are coming to town so we can get our tickets early. But now I would like to switch topics just a little bit to something that I know has become very near and dear to your heart, and something that you and I collaborated on how Butterfield can support our own Northwest Arkansas Ballet Theatre. I believe, as I had dance as a young person, and I loved ballet. I was never as accomplished at it as some of my peers, but it's still something I love watching. It's a way to escape, and it's a way for you to feel like you're moving, but your knees and your ankles aren't killing you like the dancers. But it's like ballet, professional ballet dancers, they just know that's what they were meant and born to do. It's a passion, and you hear stories about how they do go through several aches and pains and all the training that never stops, but they're addicted to it. And we're blessed because they are, because as they grow in their profession, they bring such a beautiful form of art to our lives that really cannot be shared through Broadway or a classical concert. Ballet is a standalone art that is beautiful, and we're so fortunate now that we do have this in Northwest Arkansas. So tell us a little bit about Northwest Arkansas Ballet Theatre and how you support them, and we'll see a clip in a minute about that as well.
Well, 2 years ago, I was approached. The company had been offered an opportunity to write a grant for a significant amount of funds to help solidify and to kind of get them to move to a new level. And I was brought in to help write that grant and to try to help them get to the next phase. And since then, I've been working on contract to help them raise money and to help them take their program portfolio and to develop strategies around that to grow the company. Because, as you said, Northwest Arkansas did not have a professional dance company like we have orchestra and theater. And so we have this wonderful little gym, and I think it would really, with that first funding from the Walton Family Foundation, the company has been able to hire and put together to grow. It's important to know that the company has been around for a while. It's an outgrowth of, these are things like I hadn't known until I really got my hands and began working with the company. But it's an outgrowth, and it was an idea that was founded by Margie Badowski and Peggy Wallace and Mariah Badowski, who is currently dancing with the company. Okay. And they also were running the Northwest Arkansas Conservatory of Ballet Theatre. A conservatory is a school where young people or all ages learn about ballet. And their school is the only licensed ballet curriculum conservatory in our region. They service over 300 students from the region. Some from Oklahoma and Missouri come down because it's the only conservatory, and that means someone that's serious and wants to go through a curriculum. And they are licensed by the Royal Academy from London and teach that curriculum. And what Margie was looking at was that young people who were going through the curriculum didn't have a place to go. There wasn't a feeder program, and the conservatory was lacking. You know, where do you take someone who's finishing the curriculum and to go to be an apprentice, to go and be a part of a company? And so the idea of a professional company was an outgrowth of the conservatory. And so there started with a small group of students that were professional dancers from the academy or from the conservatory, and then it just has grown with having an artistic director. I've got, because of the grant, the Walton Family Foundation grant, they put together an amazing film that lasts 3 minutes that will give you a really good sense and will showcase the company working primarily. They opened their season last year at Theater Squared. We were really excited about that, to be a part of Theater Squared's opening season. And they had plans to perform again at Theater Square in April, which, as we know, got canceled. But you'll get to see the beautiful theater used by the dancers in this film. So
Beautiful. All right, let's watch.
I actually saw my very first ballet dancer perform. I remember being taken out of my first grade class to go see it, and she performed The Dying Swan by Saint-Saëns. And I spent the next 2 years trying to do everything she did.
I started ballet because one of my older brothers was doing ballet. I wanted to be able to jump that high. I wanted to be able to do that kind of thing.
Started dancing in Maine, where I grew up, in a small town when I was 16. Dancers train their entire life from sometimes 5 years old. It's a very short windowed career, and most often they're not paid very well.
Kept seeing all these beautifully trained dancers that were either having to leave the state to dance professionally or just give up dancing.
My goal with the company would be to meet that challenge and provide them with an opportunity that might be something a little more full-time, year-round.
I went to a performance and ran into Mike Bedford with the Singing Men of Arkansas. So we met, and I told him about wanting to start a company, and he hired my company for their Christmas program. I didn't have a company yet. I had 6 weeks to put out audition notices, audition, find choreography for 4 numbers, costume everybody, and find a rehearsal space. And we pulled it off, and we immediately got asked back.
It was apparent to me when I first got here that the art scene is very vibrant. The only gap that I saw was in professional dance. So the first round of funding that we got from the Walton Family Foundation was for a 6-month pilot project called Dance Anywhere, Everywhere. Our goal with that project was to get dance in front of as many people as possible, to take it out of the proscenium. For a very long time, dance has been sort of an art form for the rich. If you can pay for an expensive ticket and get into the theater, then you can see dance. So we performed in the theater, we performed in public libraries in front of children, we performed even out in the street, trying to meet people where they're at. In that 3 months, we did over 40 performances, which is pretty astounding. And so I think it's really exciting for us to get to add to that ecosystem.
What we're kind of really striving for is having an audience feel something that they don't normally feel. I think that's one of the most rewarding things, is when you can really push out emotion through people and through your own emotion and your movement.
If you talked about arts when I first came here, people didn't have a lot to say about it one way or the other. And now everyone's like, what's going on this weekend? What can we go see? What can we participate in?
People have hearts, we really do, and we really want people to enjoy it just as much as we enjoy doing it, because that's what makes a community.
I think that we will fit in and continue to grow with the region and evolve as the art scene increases, as the population increases. I think we'll also continue to thrive right along with the rest of the art scene.
Wow, Jenni, those were very passionate people about ballet, and you can tell that they're not stopping now. They're going through. Wonderful clip. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, watching Margie always inspires me. I love that when she says, yes, you want to hire my company? And she really doesn't. That really speaks to the entrepreneurness of Northwest Arkansas. And so this company really carries that spirit that we're going to make it happen. And they are. It's impressive.
It is very impressive.
And I feel very blessed to get to participate and play along with them, or dance along with them, let's say it,
well,
metaphorically.
I can't wait to see where this theater company goes in the future. Obviously, we've mentioned what we're dealing with right now with COVID-19, and it's put performances and clinics on hold. How is Northwest Arkansas Ballet Theatre dealing with this and staying connected with the greater community?
Well, this is kind of a really strange thing to say, but the COVID-19 circumstances, it's as a young and emerging company, they're more adaptable and can be more responsive in some ways. But they've kind of turned their program model upside down, and instead of a performance venue focused company, they are now looking at all this outreach that they have started a really good platform of, and are thinking how to expand that. And if you were to go to their website, you would see all of these activities they've been creating, just like you've done.
I visited the site and I was so impressed.
They've done something really fun. They've had each of the dancers, whether it's their own hobby, their interest, they might be a certified Pilates trainer, are challenged to kind of come up with some kind of workshop or a class. And we've seen all kinds of things that the dancers have been doing, from baking, a baking show, what they want to do.
Yes.
And what makes this fun? And I want to kind of back up, and I want people to really understand. A ballet company is a very different arts organization than an orchestra or a theater company. Mm-hmm. And it functions a lot more like a baseball team, is that you have an ensemble of dancers that you put on contract. And to entice and to be able to have dancers, you have to guarantee them a certain amount of employment. And so our goal is keeping dancers contracted for work for 32 weeks a year. And so if they're not training, learning a new dance and performing on the stage, what else are we going to do with dancers for those 5 weeks?
Good question.
You don't. So that's where we're doing more outreach. The benefit of this, at a time when a company is growing, it's giving the community opportunities to get to know the dancers. When we talk about a gap in the community, one of the gaps we have is not having the opportunity to having professional dancers living and working amongst us, running into them at the coffee shop, being at the grocery store, seeing them at the school when you drop off, or at church, or wherever you go, and having those creatives in your community. And so, like a baseball team, you kind of get to know your favorite baseball player that you want to see how they perform that week.
Right.
The same thing is with a dance company. You get to find somebody, and maybe it's Mariah, one of the dancers, or Samantha, or Anna, and you want to see them dance one role, and then you want to see them dance something else. You want to see how the nuances of what they do in multiple roles. And our community has never had that opportunity to build a relationship with dancers and watch them evolve and grow.
Well, and these are people. These are young women and young men who have grown into something that is their profession. And again, being involved in their community instead of just having a bus come in or an airplane come in with a theater group come in and take them away, they're here. They're involved in what's going on. They have an interest and they care about the community as well.
We were really impressed with the diversity of dancers that the company was able to hire, the quality, the level of technical skill. These are dancers that come, we have some that have gone through the conservatory and are local, but we also have dancers that come from different parts of the United States and the world. And the artistic director, Ryan Joliker and I, who you met on the film, he danced, he actually, and the opportunity for him to come down is he was working with the Kansas City Ballet and began and had been commuting between Kansas City and Northwest Arkansas. And his network in the ballet sector around the world is very deep, and was able to entice, and but also young people wanted to work underneath him and wanted to come to the area. We also know that the dancers want to be a part of the community and be a part of something new. I haven't answered your COVID question. Because ballet is an ensemble art form, and that means that to stay trained, you dance every day, and you dance with your peers every day. So what are dance companies in general doing? They're doing a lot of classes on Zoom, and they are continuing their classes, just like I know you guys have exercise classes that Jennifer does. They're doing that with 12 and 6 people while they're on contract in different ways. The artistic director or teacher will be in the studio, and then they will interact. But it's not ideal. And we are looking at the opening. Connected. So the way the company's responded is, one, keeping artists working. Not one artist has been laid off their contract. Two, we've shifted and pivoted their responsibilities, which is a real value for the company, because instead of just training in dancing, they're utilizing some of their other skills and are helping develop the administration of the company to run it. And then 3, they're continuing to dance and to work, and are ready to develop a season that will be announced shortly. I do imagine like everyone, a continuum of how we will begin to work. Instead of looking at 12 dancer or 10 dancer pieces, we're looking at opportunities to pair artists, to pair dancers in going out into the community in smaller groups. Yeah,
maybe here
in
at
doing
Butterfield Trail Village.
We're looking at, because their teaching skills are strong, we're looking at ways that they might provide programs for different, all their programs don't have to be for people that dances. They might be for young audiences. We are looking at taking some of they have a program called Once Upon a Dance that was going into libraries and using storytelling and introducing ballet. We're creating digital equipment and resources for that. And we're working with the libraries to do that. They're also talking about creating programs for the over 60 crowd that want to dance and move. So maybe you'll see a Northwest Arkansas Ballet Theatre up here with Jennifer doing some fun exercises.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just so impressed, and I know it's hard on them when it's their daily routine to be together. And when you can't do that, they're young, they're creative, they're learning and creating ways to do that and be together. And if you're interested to see what some of these individual dancers are doing, you can visit NWA Ballet Theatre.org, and there are some YouTubes on there that you can watch, and they're quite interesting, and they're staying busy. They're being creative in different ways.
We're also busy developing the company. We have not yet rolled out a full fundraising and development program. They have been existing on some generous gifts. Of course, the Walton Family Foundation has been instrumental in kind of propelling it forward, but we're now looking at ways that the community can support and to help continue if we want it to, if the community wants it to continue, which we are optimistic because of the positive responses. The content that's going out there is being received in a real generous in an exciting mode.
Absolutely.
For people.
Well, Butterfield Trail Village is very excited for the ballet company. We want to be supportive. We have residents that have attended performances, and once we are back to enjoying these talents, we'll do what we can to be there in support, because it's such an amazing addition to Northwest Arkansas. Jenni, thank you so very much.
Well,
I know we could go on.
I want to shout a shout out to my mom. I love you. And I'm sorry I haven't been around as much often.
Well,
but,
Jenni
and
was,
I want to let all of the residents know that I miss seeing your beautiful faces and smiles in the dining hall.
absolutely.
And I
the
look
bistro.
forward, and the bistro, and I look forward to coming back. And when you see me, please stop by and say hi, and let's talk about the arts.
Thank you, Jenni. And that's it for Northwest Arkansas Backstage Pass at Butterfield Trail Village, and we will tune in later for a new guest. Have a wonderful evening. Done.